What's the most genius way you've dealt with a controlling partner and actually got them to stop? I know everyone's expecting some clever revenge story where I outsmarted him or made him taste his own medicine. That's not what happened. But what I did worked better than any trick ever could have. Jake was controlling in ways that made me feel like I was suffocating. He needed to know where I was at all times. If I didn't text back within 10 minutes, he'd call. If I didn't answer, he'd call again and again. He tracked my location on his phone and would ask why I'd stopped at a store I hadn't mentioned. He wanted to know who I was with, what we talked about, when I'd be home. I loved him. That's the part people don't understand when they say, just leave. I genuinely loved the person he was underneath all of it. Funny, kind, the guy who'd drive 3 hours to help a friend move. But this constant surveillance was destroying us. I tried everything. Fighting back made it worse. Setting boundaries worked for about a week before he pushed past them again. Ultimatums just made him panic and promise to change, which he would, until he didn't. I was ready to leave. Had my exit plan ready. Apartment I could afford. Friends who'd help me move. I was going to tell him on Saturday. Then Thursday happened. I was late coming home from work. Traffic accident on the highway. My phone died. I couldn't call. When I walked through the door 45 minutes late, I expected anger. Expected accusations. What I found was Jake sitting on the kitchen floor with his back against the cabinets, barely breathing. Not angry. Terrified. Shaking. Tears streaming down his face. He looked up and said, I thought you were dead. Not, where were you? Not, why didn't you call? He thought I was dead. 45 minutes of silence and his brain had decided I was dead. I sat down on that kitchen floor and for the first time, instead of defending myself or fighting, I asked what he was actually afraid of. It came out in pieces. Broken sentences between gasps. A name I'd never heard. Sarah. His girlfriend in college, together 2 years. One night they had a stupid fight about something neither would remember. She left angry. Said she needed space. A drunk driver ran a red light and hit her car doing 60. She died before the ambulance arrived. Jake was 21 years old. They'd fought over nothing and then she was gone. He never got help. Never went to therapy. Never processed what happened. Just buried it. Met me 5 years later and fell in love again. But his brain had learned something. People leave and don't come back. One moment of not knowing where someone is could be the last moment. If he could just know where I was at all times, he could prevent the universe from taking me too. The controlling behavior wasn't about control. It was terror. Unprocessed grief hijacking his nervous system every time I was 5 minutes late. Every text, every location check, every anxious call was his broken brain screaming, please don't be dead. Understanding why didn't make it okay. The behavior was still harmful, still suffocating. But I realized I'd been trying to fix a symptom when there was a wound underneath that never healed. The genius move wasn't outsmarting him. It was recognizing he needed help I couldn't give him. I told him that night that I loved him but couldn't live like this. Instead of another ultimatum about his behavior, I asked him to see a therapist, to talk about Sarah, to actually deal with what happened. He resisted at first, said he was fine, he'd try harder to relax, but I held firm. Therapy or I was gone. Not to punish him, but because I couldn't save him from something this big. He made an appointment that week, took 3 sessions before he told the therapist about Sarah. Another month before he was diagnosed with severe anxiety and PTSD. The trauma had never been processed. It just lived in his nervous system, hijacking his responses. He's been in treatment for 2 years now. Therapy every week. Medication that helps regulate the anxiety. Actual tools for when his brain starts spiraling. The man I live with now is not the same man who sat on that kitchen floor convinced I was dead. He still worries when I'm late, still feels the fear sometimes, but he can recognize when his brain is lying and talk himself down instead of calling 15 times. The controlling behavior didn't stop because I found a clever trick. It stopped because we addressed what was causing it. 21-year-old Jake watched the woman he loved drive away and never come back. He spent 10 years trying to make sure that never happened again. We got married last year. He goes to therapy every Thursday. The fear doesn't run our lives anymore. That's how I got my controlling partner to actually stop. Not tricks, not revenge, just finally asking the right question. What are you so afraid of?